co-host. She was not here before, but she is here now. She can explain anything she wants to tell you about herself. She is non-white, a victim of racism, white supremacy, and she has some questions for you. I want to make sure that I request, and I want to be assertive about this and making sure that the vocabulary level, we all make an effort to use lower vocabulary levels so we can be understood. And it would be most helpful if you could slow down. I'm going to make an effort to be assertive and prompting about slowing down so people can hear you, because sometimes you do talk a little fast.
I do.
Justice?
Yeah.
Rock and roll, Justice.
I'm not hearing anything. I don't know.
Are you a racist?
I didn't hear the part before that. Was that silence for a while before the question? I didn't hear that.
I just said, are you a racist?
Oh, okay. I thought there was something before that because there was about 20 seconds of silence. Well, as I've said before on Gus's program, I have, as a white person growing up in this culture, internalized certain elements of racist and white supremacist thinking, no question about it. I've talked about that, written about that. I distinguish that.
Excuse me, I just want yes or no.
Well, see, but that's not the way human psychology works. The way I've answered the question before, and I will answer it again, whether one likes the answer or not, is that I have internalized aspects of racist thinking, as I would suggest every white person in the system of white supremacy has done. Now, that is different, however, from saying that I believe in, support, and advocate the system of racism and white supremacy, which I actually reject and attempt to fight against. But I would be dishonest if I did not acknowledge that I, like every other white person, have internalized certain aspects of racist thinking. I've always said that, but I do not believe that is the same as saying, as I think some believe it is the same as saying, that I therefore support actively and advocate for the system of racism, which is a system that I find deplorable, actually.
The words that you're using, I do not understand.
Why is that?
And all I need is just a yes or no. Are you a racist? Yes or no?
See, but that's not how human psychology works. It is not a yes or no question.
What's humans, whatever you call it?
Psychology? Psychology is the way that the brain functions. It's the study of the brain. And
I don't want the brain functions or anything like that. All I want is just a yes or a no.
Right, but it's not a yes or no question. And so you're going to be frustrated if you ask me that question. I've answered the question in very basic English, and I'm quite certain that you do understand. But I know that we like to play games on the show sometimes. And so I'm going to suggest that this is a very simple answer. I said I have internalized aspects of racist thinking. Now, if you want to take that as a yes to your question, feel free to do it. But I've also said that I have also internalized anti-racist thoughts, anti-racist norms, anti-white supremacist thinking, because even though I was exposed to racist ideas, and those have affected me like they've affected everyone, I was also taught to be an anti-racist, and so I have internalized that as well. So the best way that I can answer your question is to say that I have both internalized racist ideas and anti-racist ideas. Whether that makes me a racist in your estimation, that's for you to decide. I'm simply saying it's part of who I am. It is not all of who I am.
You're just saying just buckets and buckets of words. Can you please?
Excuse me, what did you say? These are not graduate level school words that I'm using. These are about 9th grade words. So it's not as if I'm using words that you cannot comprehend.
I'm only 10.
You want a yes or no answer, but there is not a yes or no answer to your question. Your question is not one that can be answered with a yes or a no. I understand, or I assume, that you have been trained to believe that everything is that simple. It is not that simple. Whether one is 10, whether one is 30, it is not that simple a question, and therefore the answer is not that simple. Can I give you an example of what I mean? And I think this will make it easy.
No.
Well, okay. I've been asked to be a guest on the program, and I think sort of basic courtesy would allow me to do that. But maybe that's not something that you believe in. I will tell you this. When I was 10 or 20 or 30, I would use this.
I don't want if you're 10 or 30 or whatever you're trying to talk about. I just need, are you a racist? That
and
is
I gave
yes
you an answer.
Question.
It's an answer you don't like. And that's, I can't tell you anything more. I've given you an answer. I think you're well smart enough to figure out what it is I've said. I said I have internalized racist thoughts and that I am opposed to the system of racism, which is to say that I have both racist aspects of my personality and anti-racist aspects. That is a simple answer. It is not a convoluted or complicated answer. It's not the answer that you prefer. It's not the answer that Gus prefers. It's not the answer that CodeSpeak prefers, but it is the only intellectually honest answer that I can offer you. And it's the only one you're going to get this evening.
So then that means you are a racist, right?
It means exactly what I said. It means exactly what I said, nothing more and nothing less. And I think that if you want to assume that that means that it's a yes, then you're free to assume that. What I'm saying is very simply what I said. It's not complicated.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's actually not. It's actually not. It's only complicated.
I'm only 10 years old, and you're very confusing.
Okay, well, I'm very sorry that you're confused. I've given you the only answer that I know how to give you. So, that's the best I can offer you. It's an honest answer. It is an answer that reflects what I honestly believe to be true about myself. You asked me a question about me. I gave you an answer about me. You don't like the answer because the code that you have been trained in says that
I didn't even say that I even liked the answer or disliked the answer.
Well, you keep asking the question over, so I assume you're unsatisfied by the answer. That's what it means when you ask a question.
Because I don't understand it.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. I've given you the answer. It's the only one I know to give you. It's the best that I can do.
Okay, that'll be all for now.
Context of White Supremacy, Gus T Renegade, Justice, and the Admitted White Supremacist known as Tim Wise. Couple things I heard as we went through the discussion. I just want to, I asked this question when you were on the program June 1, 2009, Mr. Wise. I asked, do you harm non-white people consciously and or subconsciously, directly and or indirectly? Do you harm individuals because they are not white? And you said yes. Is that still your response to that question?
Yes, and the question...
Okay, wait a minute. Hang on, please, sir. Hang on, I'm not done. I definitely want to hear your response to that, but I'm not done. I'm not playing games. This is very important. And this is really at the crux of my view on the admitted white supremacist known as Tim Wise. The problem is, when Justice just asked that question, we could have got the same answer you just gave.
No,
the presentations where I've seen, wait a minute, you're still interrupting me. I have not, and I want to point this out. I haven't interrupted you the entire program. Let you talk. I would like the same courtesy. I'm about courtesy. You asked Justice, I'm about courtesy. I'm going to listen to you respectfully. I would like the same courtesy. Thank you. Now, I've seen you live and in person. I have listened to you on other broadcasts. This is your third trip to this broadcast. This is the only program where I hear you say all white people. It is impossible to be white in the system of white supremacy and not be culpable at some level. I don't hear that on other programs. I don't hear you freely concede, yes, I harm individuals because they are not white. I do not hear you freely concede that on other programs. And even bigger than that, the biggest issue of them all, when I look at the results, the non-white people who hear you speak, particularly in person, they do not leave with the impression that, oh, wow, Tim Wise participates in the system of white supremacy. Every white person at some level is participating in this system. They don't leave with that impression. They leave with the impression that Tim Wise is an incredible guy. I love Tim Wise. When I have spoke with non-white people who have seen you speak and said, Tim Wise admitted to harming non-white people on my program, they look at me as if I'm speaking another language. It is incomprehensible to them that you could practice racism in any way. And I have to believe this is done deliberately on your part. I could be incorrect, but I have to suspect that because when you were on the program in June, you said repeatedly the thing that bothers you most is when you see non-white people and they're not suspicious. When they're not suspicious of you and not suspicious of white people. You said it's logical for non-white people, victims of white supremacy, to be suspicious of all white people, no exception. You said that is your greatest concern, and I see no evidence that you act on that concern when you speak to non-white people. I am done, and I'm eager to hear your response.